The anchor is down, and the work is done, and I am sitting with the ledger across my knees in the mouth of the notch, a short row from my own door, in no hurry about the last of the evening. The water could hardly be flatter. The boat has given up even the small talk a boat makes at anchor. No knock of the oar, no working at the rope, only the occasional sound of the water finding the hull and moving on. The air still has the day's warmth in it, enough that a man can sit out on the water this late with his coat left where he dropped it. The soundings put me out at this hour, or the tide did, which comes to the same thing. A sounding is worth the ink only if the water stands at a known stage when it is taken, so the tide sets the hour, and I keep it. Most days this season, the stage I want has come in the morning or the middle of the afternoon, and the figures have been daylight figures. Today it came at the end of the day. The heat sat on the island from the middle of the morning, the cove giving off the white glare it gets at this time of year, and I kept indoors with work that did not care when it got done. The pen got its cleaning. The back of the roll got put in order, which it needs about twice a season, and forgives me the rest of the time. The stove had its few minutes at supper, and was cold again before I walked down. The line and the board and the rest of the sounding gear have lived in the boat since the first calm day of the season, as they do every year, and will live there until the last one. So going out for the evening figures wants no more preparation than walking to the woodpile. I rowed out with the light still on the water and the sun down behind the west arm, the sky above it holding a pale yellow that was not going to last. The way out crossed the season's earlier work, the inner stations gone under the boat, one after another with their figures already in the ledger, and the arms stood open ahead, the water widening between them the way it does as the mouth comes on. The half rock stood out ahead with the day still on it, gray and streaked and plain, a small working sound at the foot of it where the tide was finishing. I brought her up short of it, let the anchor go, and took up the line. 4 stations tonight, the last of this summer's set for the outer line. The line is marked at the fathoms, and the work is the same at every station. The lead over the side, the line running out through my hands until it stops asking for more, the reading taken at the surface, and then the whole of it again. The boat sat still for it, which is the other thing a sounding wants, and the thing this evening had plenty of. 4 fathoms even off the mouth. Last year's sheet was along for the checking, as it has been all season, soft at its folds now from a season in the boat. The figures on it in the loose hand the boat allows. The same figures I brought into the fair columns at the desk at the end of last summer, a few pages back in the ledger from where tonight's will go. Station against station the two agreed. The differences small enough to be the tides and not the bottoms. The notch has held its shape another year. There is nothing to say about a figure that agrees with an old figure, which has never once stopped me writing it down, since the agreement is as much a fact about the bottom as a change would be. The reef lights came up while I was working. They start at the foot of the west arm, they always have, and from this seat that is off behind my left shoulder, rather than in the lower corner of any glass. I did not see them begin. My hands were on the line, and my eyes were on the mark, and somewhere between one station and the next, the water off that side of the boat had a low green standing in it, well down in the water rather than on it, and by the time I had leisure to look, the green had spread along the shoal line past the boat. At the desk, I would have looked up and found it starting, the way I generally do, the window being right there in front of a man, whether he is attending to it or not. Out here it began at my back, while my hands were full, and I caught up with it a station later. The last station went down through lit water. The green lay low and even around the boat, and where the line went in, it stood in the light, a pale mark going down. The light keeps to the top of the water and stops well short of the bottom. The lead went down through the bright part and out the underside of it into the dark below, and found bottom at 4 fathoms even, and I hauled it back up through the light, and it came over the side green for a moment, and then only wet. I've been looking at the house between sentences, which is not a thing I often get to do, a man being nearly always inside his own house or at work too near it to stand off and look. It does not show much of itself from out here. It sits up on its ground at the head of the cove, with the wood standing close behind it, the whole of it dark against the dark of the trees, and the chimney only a squarer piece of the same. The window I write at faces me across the water, and there is nothing of it to pick out at this distance with no lamp behind it. The land is not quiet tonight, only far. The crickets are going in the trees on both arms, the whole field of them, and what reaches the boat is small and thinned by the water between. The ringing of the west arm and the ringing of the east arriving separately, each from its own side, a little apart in their timing. At the house, the ringing stands close around the walls. Out here it is the land sound, and it stays on the land, and between the two shores, the water keeps its stillness. The half rock has been off my right hand the whole of the work, a boat's length or so beyond the bow, and I have been level with it all evening. From the window it is a mark out in the middle of the mouth. From a working boat it is a thing to be gone around. The green reached it while I was still working. The light does not climb the stone. It lies against it at the water line all the way around, so the rock sits black inside a lit ring. The wet at its foot showing green and everything above the wet showing nothing. And the small swell out here shows itself only in the ring, in the light rising and easing against the stone, while the stone takes no part in it. The green is done crossing the mouth. From the house, the whole of it lies in the glass, and a man can follow the front of it from the west arm to the east without leaving his chair. And I have followed it that way more evenings than the ledger has pages. Out here I had it in pieces, a station at a time, and by the time the work was done, it had stopped being anything to follow. The mouth is one brightness now, out past the rock and away to either arm, and behind me the water back toward the cove keeps its own darker business. The tide has turned under me as I write. The boat has come around a few points on her line, slowly, the way she does when the water starts to move out, and the small sound at the half rock has changed sides. The stage I came out for is over, and its figures are in the ledger, and the evening has run on past the work, which an evening in this season has plenty of room to do. The row in is water I could take with my eyes shut. Nothing at the house will spoil for a few minutes more. The oars are shipped, and the anchor line lies slack within reach of my hand, and the night is warm enough that the sitting costs nothing. Back at the west arm, where the green comes up first, it may have started its thinning by now, the way it sometimes goes at the end of a night, though seeing that would mean turning around, and the boat is content to face the way she faces,